Okay, I think we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final webinar for the 2024 EFPC webinar series. I'm Robin Golis. I'm the Junior Coordinator of the EFPC. For those of you that are not familiar with the EFPC, we are the European Forum for Primary Care. We bring all stakeholders together within primary care, be it academics, policymakers, practitioners, patients, or informal carers, to discuss the organization of primary care to achieve the best outcomes and healthcare for the populations. Today's webinar is hosted by the youngEFPC, which is a working group or branch of the EFPC. And this group is a group of young professionals and students who are in the professional field of primary care, whether it be research, policy, or the clinical setting. And the working group ensures that there's an inclusive community for these young professionals in primary care to exchange ideas, to network, and to contribute to the aims and objectives of the EFPC. So I'm just going to share with you a statement that was recently released by the EFPC, and then the video that comes from the youngEFPC, sorry, and the video that comes from that. Just give me a sec. Share my screen. Okay. You're able to see that presentation? Okay. So the youngEFPC demands sustainability. Our planet's health impacts everyone's health. Have we ever thought about how we can make our everyday work greener? The young primary care healthcare professionals voiced their demands for sustainable change at the EFPC conference in 2024 in Ljubljana by producing a video. From traveling eco-friendly to a sustainable research perspective, the young EFPC is calling for action to make primary healthcare systems greener and more resilient. Let's build a healthier future together by making sustainable choices. Are you ready to be part of this change? Then join us in pushing for sustainable solutions that work for everyone.
Sorry, Robin. I think we cannot hear the sound of the video.
Sorry, are you seeing it, but you're not hearing the audio? That's strange. Okay. Stop sharing. Let's see if maybe I'll share it again. Sorry, we didn't we didn't test this part. See.
When
you hearing it now?
No, when you start sharing, you can choose including sound.
Oh, okay.
And then it should be okay.
Okay.
There are also 9 people waiting in the lobby, I can see.
Okay.
So
okay.
If we can let them in, but I cannot let them in myself, I think.
Sure, but not all. There we go. They should have all been admitted now. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's see. All right, include sound. Yeah, you're correct.
appearing and we can't hear anything, but we can share the link to the video probably afterwards.
Change to patient stories.
It's back.
Okay, I will stop sharing and we can share the link. Yeah, sorry, don't know what is going on there, but I'm going to hand over to Max and he will moderate the rest of the webinar.
Okay, welcome from my side. I can't change the mode, but you can see the slide. My name is Maximilian Schwarz. I'm working at the Austrian National Public Health Institute, and I'm also a member of the EFPC Advisory Board and the youngEFPC. And I hope you have some delicious lunch in front of you, because this might be called a lunch webinar, but we have only food for thought. So I will present you our 4 cooks today who have prepared some delicious brain food for you all. And we will start by Nicholas Metzger, who is a research associate at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. And he also recently published a book on, it's called The Green Medical Practice. And he's gonna set the scene for today's webinar and talk about how we can all take action for a climate-sensitive healthcare system. And then he'll hand over to Alina Hermann, who is leading a research group at the Heidelberg Institute of Global Health, and her research focuses on health workforce and climate. And she's gonna talk about climate-sensitive health counseling and the patient's perspective. And yeah, then Sophia Spargel, my colleague at the Austrian National Public Health Institute at the Department of Climate Resilience and One Health, is going to talk about the health workers perspective and how we can build up a climate smart health workforce. And then the last speaker for today is going to be Johanna Schauer-Berg, who is a research associate at the Paracelsus Medical University in Salzburg, and she's also chair of the Health for Future Austria. And we are not only health professionals, but we are also citizens with voices. So she is gonna explain to us how we can use those voices for a more climate-friendly healthcare system, and teaches us how advocacy can look like in this issue. And so we can start now with Nicholas' presentation, please.
Thank you. Just checking if you can see my slides. Yeah, thank you. Okay, welcome. I'm a medical doctor and I do research not only at Karolinska Institute in Sweden, but also at University of Halle in Germany, and with the German Alliance on Climate Change and Health. And I would like to present today to you 3 fields of action for environmental sustainability in primary care. So let's start things off by a few remarks on climate and health. Last year has been the warmest in global temperature records, as depicted by the famous warming stripes that you can see on the right. Right now, global warming is at 1.2 degrees, and current climate policies put us on track towards 3 degrees warming, which would have extremely severe health impacts. The 3-degree scenario is one we must absolutely avoid. Why? Because we need to consider that these scenarios rely on average values. Warming in Europe is much faster. For example, Germany has already warmed now by 2 degrees compared to the 19th century. Already this comes with health impacts. Heat-related deaths of people above 65 years of age have almost doubled since the 90s. Extreme heat is just one of many climate hazards that put population health at risk of climate change. Certain population groups are especially vulnerable to these hazards, for example, women, children, elderly, and economically disadvantaged. Infrastructure can be disrupted by climate hazards, potentially affecting health systems and exacerbating health outcomes. These adverse health outcomes include injury, chronic diseases worsened by air pollution, spread of infectious disease, and mental health issues. This puts us health professionals and health institutions really at the forefront of climate change. We are the ones that receive the patients. So what does this mean? We health professionals can and should play a role in driving climate action within our organizations. By advocating for sustainable practices and changing workflows, we can reduce environmental impacts while even improving patient outcomes. And primary healthcare is a particularly powerful platform for climate action, as changes at the primary care level can really ripple outwards and inspire broader systemic action in all parts of society. And the three fields I want to outline today are first, making primary health systems climate friendly. We can reduce their carbon footprint. Second, by developing climate resilient primary healthcare, we can protect communities from climate-related health risks. And third, by climate-sensitive health counseling, we empower patients to adopt lifestyles that improve both health and reduce carbon emissions, such as active transport and sustainable diets. To start with the climate-friendly health services, let's look at the carbon footprint of the health sector in England as a baseline. In the chart on the left, we can see in green and bright blue that health facilities themselves are responsible for around 1/3 of the carbon emissions of the health sector, mostly arising from the heating and cooling of the buildings, travel by staff, patients, and for example, emergency transport, and use of certain medicines that contain greenhouse gases, such as metered dose inhalers that are used for asthma therapy. So this means that we need to focus on our health facilities and health services to cut emissions. But this graph also shows that we need to focus on the supply chain marked in dark blue on the right, which is responsible for 70% of the carbon emissions of the health sector, especially from production, transport, and distribution of medicines and medical products. On the right side, we can see that the primary care is a major contributor due to its reliance on pharmaceuticals. So we can reduce emissions by sustainable prescribing of medical services. Let's look at some concrete example of sustainability in primary care. Reduce low-benefit healthcare by deprescribing unnecessary medication and transitioning to eco-friendly options like dry powder inhalers in asthma therapy. Minimize waste. Use the principle of refuse, reduce, and recycle. Encourage public transport and active mobility, like walking and cycling, among both the staff and the patients, and switch to renewable energy sources and improve building insulation for energy efficiency. This takes us to the second field of action, climate resilient health services. So what is a health crisis? It arises when a hazard hits a vulnerable health system. And climate hazards present different risks to health and infrastructure. Wildfires that we have seen in Greece and Portugal lead to severe air pollution, necessity of evacuations and disruption in transport, water supply, and communication. Floods, as we have seen them in Spain, Italy, Slovenia, and Austria, among others, cause trauma, waterborne diseases, and mental health challenges, while also disrupting healthcare delivery and infrastructure. And heat is the most important climate-related health risk in Europe, and it affects disproportionately some groups like elderly and outdoor workers, and it also makes pre-existing health conditions worse. And these climate risks, they don't occur just individually, but they come in combination. And this is another argument for developing adaptation strategies to mitigate these interconnected challenges. So I want to take the example of a heat wave to show how to make primary care facilities more resilient. And this starts with communicating risks. Share information with patients and their families on hydration, keeping cool, and adjusting behaviors during heat. Second, adapt routines in the facility. For example, schedule risk patients in cooler morning or evening hours, provide drinks in the waiting areas, and limit exhausting procedures such as diagnostics. Third, review medication. Check the storage conditions of heat-sensitive medications such as insulin, review and adjust medications such as antihypertensive drugs before and during the summer. And fourth, proactively contact risk patients. And this really works through local networks for active contact and outreach as part of heat action plans in our communities. And I just want to point out these information that you can find on the website of the Global Heat Health Information Network if you want to find out more on this topic. The third field of action for sustainability in primary care is climate-sensitive health counseling, and it focuses on educating patients about the links between climate and health while encouraging sustainable, healthy lifestyle choices that benefit personal health and the planet. Stay tuned. So let's revisit these three fields of action. Decarbonize health systems, take action to make routines more sustainable and reduce low-value healthcare. Adapt to climate hazards and its health impacts by preparing routines at the primary care facility level. And promote health co-benefits of sustainable lifestyle among patients and in our communities. There are a bunch of WHO resources that I'm highlighting here on all of these fields of action. I recommend to take a look. And just to advertise our book for those capable of German, we published Die Grüne Arztpraxis this year, where we also outline these three fields of action. And with that, I want to thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming presentation and the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicholas, for setting the scene and providing us with some helpful suggestions on what we all can do in our facility. And we'll continue our presentations with Alina Herrmann. And I just wanted to remind you that you can all, if you have any questions, just type them in the chat and we will discuss them after the 4 presentations. So please do that. And now, Alina, it's your time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me well and see my slides. Yes?
Yes, I
Very
yes.
well.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much, Nikolaus, for setting the scene so greatly. So I think I can immediately jump in climate-sensitive health counseling, which is a topic very close to my heart. I'm researching this topic with my affiliation in Heidelberg, but also the one in Cologne, which is at the Institute of General Medicine there. First of all, regarding my conflict of interest, so I'm leading, I'm the spokesperson of the section on climate change and health of the German Society for General Practice and Family Medicine. I'm also a member of the German Alliance on Climate Change and Health, and I do receive some funding for lectures, for instance, from universities or medical chambers, or also activities and advisory boards. So I'll quickly talk you through what climate-sensitive health counseling is. I do want to present you some results about perspective of patients on this topic, and I also want to give you some concrete examples. So first of all, with regard to the definition of climate-sensitive health counseling, I think we can say that it is communicating with patients about topics related to climate and health in the clinical setting. So it is really about taking this into your talk with patients in the clinical setting, not outside of it. And we have created a framework which is mainly organized along the aims, topics, and communication strategies for climate-sensitive health counseling. And with regard to the aims, this is stemming from a literature review that we did. And the first aim, of course, is to protect and promote individual and public health. The second one is to encourage climate action and lifestyle change. And the third one is to increase climate change and health knowledge and awareness. And these 3 aims, they can come together, but they can also be looked at separately. I will come to a few examples about this, but just so you're understanding this right now. So of course I can counsel about heat protection without mentioning climate change or encouraging any kind of climate action. So this would then probably only capture the first aim. But of course, when I talk about lifestyles, I can encourage climate action with the type of advice I'm giving. So you will see a few more examples of that, but let's look at the topics now. So there are generally 3 topics which came up in this literature review and which are important if you talk to patients, and that's, of course, you can talk about the health impacts of climate change and how people can adapt. We can talk about healthy and sustainable lifestyles, and sometimes that will be less. We could also talk about climate action and policies. For instance, if people come who have climate anxiety, who maybe feel powerless in the view of climate change, and then it can also be helpful to talk to them about their possibilities, to see how they could maybe connect to others, to also feel that they can have some impact. Then it is also important to talk about communication strategy. So how should we communicate about these issues? And I think the very good message is that we can use a lot of health counseling strategies that we as health professionals already know. So things like shared decision making, motivational interviewing, patient-centered communication are also very important and remain important in this climate-sensitive health counseling. And then, to some extent, other strategies which might rather come from climate communication, such as being role models and things like that, come in. The last important thing is that this is really a concept which should be integrated into routine healthcare activities. So it's nothing we should do on top, but there are a lot of options how we can connect this to what we are doing anyways. Now, jumping to patient perspective. So we were also very interested in what patients think about this, because possibly they don't even want this. So it's important for us to know what they expect. So we did also together with Nikolaus and the University of Halle a survey with this online panel. It is an online panel of more than 3,000 people across Germany, and 1,491 answered our survey. And we wanted to know like in how far they would be interested in climate sensitive health counseling. We did explain a little bit what that meant. And here we can actually see that there were about 50% who said, yes, they're quite interested in this. There were some which said they don't care. And then there was also a bit more than a third, which was rather unfavorable with regard to climate sensitive health counseling. And then we also looked a little bit more in detail into the different topics. So with regard to the lifestyle changes, it looked very similar, like the overall one. But then we could see that people were more favorable about the impact of climate change and health, and especially how they can adapt. So of course, the question like, how can I protect my health from the impact of climate change? So that's the topic of climate resilience. That was obviously something people were more interested in. Very few said that they want to hear anything in the patient health professional interaction about engagement and climate protection. And in relation to the other points, this also looks like little interest in topics, or if people want to share about climate change related anxiety. But I actually think the question was, would you like to talk to your doctor, in this case it was doctors, about your worries about climate change? And it was 20% of the people who said yes, they would be interested in this. So I think actually that's quite a big number. Then there was one more very interesting finding. We also wanted to know, do people want to know about topics around climate change and health with regard to global health or individual health? And as you can see, people were much more interested in individual health, and this fits very much to what we know, that people, especially with regard to climate change, they think anyways it's a distant thing, so they're not so much interested in what these distant issues are, at least not when they talk to health professionals, but they actually want to see the connection to their own health. So now, how can we also use this knowledge if we talk about examples of climate sensitive health counseling? So the first example is about these health impacts and adaptation. And of course, I take the example of heat because it is the most prominent one in yeah, actually in Europe, I would say, of course, extreme weather events are important as well, but heat is coming every year in most of our countries. So I think that is a very important one. And here I just want to let you know that was a questionnaire in Cologne where Cologne seniors were asked what they did to protect themselves in heat waves. And you can see that a lot of them answered that they would do very many things. But what they didn't do is actually these things which are related to active cooling. So using ventilators, arm baths, wet towels, or foot baths. And especially for elderly people, these actions are actually very important because the thermal regulation of elderly is declining and they cannot cool their body with their normal mechanisms like sweating and so on as much as younger people can. So these are actually things that we should advise them about because these are also things that they don't do so much. So that's one example of what we could say. And then I brought you another example, and that's actually one which I didn't put up myself. It's an example by Sena et al. And they say what you could say is, due to climate change, there are more hot days in our region every year, and the heat can be very challenging for people with respiratory issues or for the elderly. Let's talk about how you can prepare for this and how you can protect yourself from the heat. And what I want to draw your attention about is that depending on whether we use this due to climate change or not, we actually have quite a change in what kind of aims we pursue. Because generally, of course, this is about protecting the health of this individual, discussing how they can protect themselves. But if we talk about due to climate change, we also go for this other aim of increasing climate change and health knowledge and awareness. And I think here we can also see like how do we perceive our responsibility. And I think all of us need to do the first one. And I think we probably also should do the second one. But of course, this might be a bit more complicated because we don't know what how our patients might react. Then the last example, and then I think I really need to stop because we were supposed to be brief. So we can also talk about physical activity in healthy lifestyles, for examples. And here, of course, we do have these recommendations by WHO on weekly physical activity levels. And here, this can be easily linked to climate action if, for example, we are saying that these 30 minutes of moderate physical activity on 5 days a week, as recommended by WHO, are replacing short bus or car trips. So what we could say then is, for example, the World Health Organization recommends exercising for at least 30 minutes on 5 days a week. The easiest thing to do in order to achieve this is to walk or bike on distances that we need to cover in our daily lives anyways. Perhaps we could think about which routes to work, shopping, or other appointments you could walk or cycle. So that's another example. And again, here it's about protecting and promoting individual health. And maybe you remember this other aim of the 3 aims of climate-sensitive health counseling. That would be about encouraging climate action and lifestyle change. And maybe if you notice, without even mentioning climate change, but only focusing on this health issue. And I want to thank also all the doctoral students which were involved in this work, and I'm happy to discuss later on.
Thank you so much, Alina, for your presentation on climate-sensitive health counseling. And I think this is one of the take-home messages from this webinar, that a lot of patients actually want to be informed about climate change and health by health professionals. And we move on with Sophia Spargel, and I will hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Max, for introducing me and letting me speak here today. I'm going to share my slides. Hope you can see them.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, so you've already heard a lot about climate mitigation, ways of climate adaptation, and climate communication, thanks to Nikolaus and Alina. And what I would like to add now is the aspect on how, on an institutional level, we try to reinforce competences that are needed to take action in climate mitigation, climate adaptation. in other words, how we try to strengthen climate smart health workforce on a national level. And there are mainly 3 steps of work that we did to strengthen climate smart health workforce, which I would like to share with you today shortly. So the WHO developed a framework in which it describes 10 dimensions that are needed to build a climate resilient and low carbon healthcare system. And one of the dimensions is climate smart health workforce. And since this sounds like a very abstract concept, we first of all defined what climate smart health workforce means to us. And to us, climate smart health workforce understands the principles of how the climate system works overall. It can recognize the connections between climate and health. Furthermore, it is able to especially find and communicate those information on the topic of climate and health. And it can make decisions for themselves as well as for others to promote health, to protect the climate, and as well to cope with the impacts of climate change on health. And based on this definition, we developed an interdisciplinary manual on climate literacy and health professionals, which gives an overview of the scope of health-related climate literacy for health workforce overall. So it's not specified for different health professions, but we see this manual as a basis for redefining existing curricula for specific health professions. And as you can see, the manual consists of 5 key areas. You can see them in green, with 16 modules in total. And the idea is that those modules can be taught independently, so they don't build up on each other. And I will give you some examples so that you can get an idea what is being taught there. In the module Climate Change and its Impact on Health in the key area knowledge and analytic skills, the goal, for example, is for individuals to understand how climate change is impacting the health, for example, by explaining how heat physiologically affects the body, or to be able to identify vulnerable groups in relation to climate change. In the key area clinical practice, we focus, among others, on climate mitigation in healthcare facilities. So the aim here would be for healthcare workforce to get to know climate mitigation measures that can be implemented in their healthcare facilities, for example, in relation to energy, to green spaces, or resource consumption. And as you can see here, we also have one key area on communication, which is really, really important. That's it. And in a third step, we then conducted a trainer, Climate Smart Health Workforce 2024, in which we taught all of those 16 modules. And the aim of this trainer is to teach trainers in health professions on the relations between climate and health, and furthermore to enable them to pass the knowledge on to their students and trainees. What it also aims at is we want to offer the opportunity to network with other trainers in health professions, since some of them might already take action in implementing climate aspects in their teaching. Just some facts about our first trainer course that ended 2 weeks ago. In total, 30 participants took part in the course, and the participating trainers were from universities for applied sciences, and educational institutions for further education and professional development. The participating trainers are teaching several different health professions, such as occupational therapists, nurses, physicians, psychologists, or healthcare managers, and so on. All of those 16 modules were taught by experts in climate and/or health, which we requested for that. For example, Johanna Schauberg, who is going to speak after me. The course ran over a period of 2 months, and there were online as well as in-person sessions. And after the course, we then provided the teaching material of each module to the participants so that they could share their knowledge or implement it in their teaching. Yeah, that was our first course, and we will have a second round next year. I will end with that slide. I think I'm pretty fast. So before and after the trainer course, we asked our participants on how they would assess their own health-related climate literacy. And before, 48% stated that they would feel competent in their climate literacy. And afterwards, 76% felt competent and 24% stated they would feel very competent. So yeah, I think we might not have been completely wrong with our trainer approach. I will end here and hand back to Max, I guess. And I'm happy to answer some questions afterwards. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Sophia, for showing us how trainings to get more climate smart health professionals can look like. And maybe someone of the participants today is interested in taking this training or implement it in other facilities. Please get back to Sophia if you have any further questions. And now we will get to our last speaker, Johanna Schauberg, and she is gonna put us through some interactive discussions, I think. Please, Johanna.
So, yes, thanks. For my contribution, I want to focus on the action part within the title of today's webinar. And thanks to Sophia for the shout out before, but in that course, I talked about something totally else. So, as my colleagues pointed out, what we should aim for is a climate smart workforce, climate friendly primary care, climate resilient primary care, and we should take our patients along for the ride. Now, there are 3 points I want to make about that. Number 1, those are interconnected. So, for example, a very climate smart health professional will have a hard time to act in a healthcare system that's not built climate smart. Or we can counsel our patients to change over to a cooling zone if it gets hot, but if the cooling zone doesn't exist, they can't go there. Or we can counsel them to change their lifestyle, be more physically active, but if there are no bike lanes or if there is no public transport, how are they supposed to do it? Which brings me to point number 2, and that's dependence on other sectors. So we need to, if we want to change the system, or how we work within the medical system, the healthcare system, we need to talk to transport, we need to talk to energy, and we need to talk to urban planning. And the third point I want to make is we do have an implementation gap. So we know a lot about what we could do and should do. We've got a lot of frameworks, some of them have already been pointed out. But we are not as good yet as at implementing. We've recently done a scoping review, which is not currently yet published, and looked into interventions on climate mitigation, climate adaptation in primary care in Europe. And we didn't come up with that many references. So, which brings me to my last point, and that's it usually needs a bunch of people who think, oh, that's a bloody good idea, let's do it, to start implementing. And that brings me to the concept of the handprint. So the handprint is things we do to amplify action beyond the reduction of our individual footprint. To make it more tangible, I'll give you an example. So we can change our energy supplier for our practice to a green energy supplier, but probably the impact is bigger if we start to talk to the physicians' pension fund to divest their investments away from fossil fuels. So I hope you get the difference in impact. So what I want to do now, we've got about 39 people in this virtual meeting room who, for one reason or another, care enough about climate to spend 60 minutes together. And I want to harness that creative energy and invite you to think 10 years into the future. So imagine in 2034, the primary healthcare sector in Europe is climate and resilient and net zero. And my question is, what could you do to get us there? And I'm not looking for silver bullets, because we all do know that they don't exist. I ask for contributions. Now, I already know, well, we have a good speakers panel. I know they've been very active. I also saw some participants who also have experience in this field. So everybody who's already done something to amplify the footprint, pitch us your best ideas. Everybody who wants to get started, take some time, think about it, and pitch those ideas as well. So I invite you to go to menti.com and enter the code that's on the top of the slide, or scan the QR code, or just click on the link I just posted in the chat. And then think about what you want to change, what really pisses you off that it doesn't go right, networks you have access to. And I give you about 4 minutes to find something really smart. Okay, 4 minutes are up now. So it's multilingual. So let's see whether this works. Hang on. I'm trying to like sort them together in clusters, and then let's see what we have. And I do admit it's not me doing it's an AI, so I hope it works on English and German. Okay. Never mind. So there is now a slight issue because everybody who doesn't speak German might have a hard time with the next thing I want to invite you to do, and that's rate. So each of you get 2 points, and I invite you to. You should still be in the voting process. Give 1 point to the answer you think it's the most effective. So the one which has the biggest impact. And the second point, you allocate according to doability. So what's really doable? So each of you 2 points. Give 1 to the most effective and 1 to the doable stuff. Does it work for everyone? Please not. Thanks. So far I've had 2 people voting.
Not so easy to
Okay.
vote. Too many good ideas.
Have to read them all first.
Yeah, that's why I thought maybe cluster, but I think on bilingual it doesn't work. So far I've only done it in English, so. So we had 20 answers before. Let's see. But anybody, we're standing at 12 votes. 13, great. But not quite at half the people in the room. Okay, it's getting slower, so due to time, let's see what we've ended up with. Okay. So the most popular one is think about your about how do you consume things. Then we have 2 words on interventions to reduce multi-medication, telemedicine, avoid traffic. Okay. And then there's a clear winner in a way. Everything else only got 1 point. There's a clear winner. Anybody who voted for think about how you consume things. Does anyone want to jump in and tell me why did you vote for it? Did you vote for it because it's effective, or did you vote for it because it's easy to do? Anyone? Just unmute and jump in if you dare. Easy to do. Okay. Andrea said, it's easy to do. Okay, anybody else have an opinion on it? No. So what stands out to me in a way is how you consume is part of your own footprint. So it's not an action that's if you think I don't know who stated it and how they meant it, whether it's your own consumption, then it's on your footprint. If you maybe get other people around to do the same, then maybe the outreach is a bit further, and then it's more about the handprint. So Alina said, okay, it's most effective, but furthest to reach, which goes totally in the other direction, says, okay, it's difficult to do. I would now want to jump over and take up some slides of the speakers who've come before me. So if you remember about this one, that's from Nikolaus. And it's the scopes. So most of the things that have been pitched so far, and that's what I want to let you think about a bit further, is more on those circles or organizational. But if you want to hit a little bit higher, it's like things like run for public office, create laws, organize, vote, protest, or even further, change norms, systems, stories, or symbols. Now I want to pick up on another slide, and that's from Alina. And most of the things we've heard about is very much focused on facilities, so what we can do within our immediate reach. But I find it very interesting that she has climate action and policies as part of the whole concept. And then there is another one, and that's the framework by Sophia. And the box I want to highlight is down here. So it's climate policy and governments. Political conditions, governance structures, impact of climate policy decisions and on population groups. And all those things are usually not things we think about as our immediate task as healthcare professionals. So one more. That's some of the stuff our professional associations have to say about it. So those are all statements from policy papers, from the World Federation of Occupational Therapists. I know there are some occupational therapists in the group. From the European Federation of Nursing Councils, the International Council of Nurses, the WONCA, and the World Council for Physiotherapy. And what I want to point out is that they have a very strong opinion of what should be part of what health professionals do to tackle the climate crisis. It's empower people to organize and advocate. It's advocate for ambitious planetary health action on the political level, actively engage in environmental health committees and policy making. Advocate for health policies, engage with media, and raise awareness. So, policy is imbalance. Anyway, the point I want to make is that maybe we should think about when in our understanding of what health professionals do to the impact the climate crisis has on health, where we aim our actions. Now, for all those who don't really have a grasp of what advocacy is, I want to jump to this one. Those are some definitions. This is a recommendation by a very long-standing climate campaigner for Oxfam. So it's basically influencing decision makers on political, economic, and social institutions. And that's usually not part of our training, but maybe we should think further whether that's something we want to look into. And due to time, there I have to make a cut and leave you with two recommendations. This is the communication manual by WHO. It's actually framed on for health professionals who want to communicate with patients, clients, but also journalists, policymakers, politicians, and other stakeholders. And this one I can recommend highly because I think it's yeah, I agree with most of it that's said here and how we run advocacy campaigns at Health for Future. It's by Healthcare Without Harm. And that's where I hand over for the last questions in the chat, or I would like to answer any questions which are aimed at me.
Thank you, Hannah, so much for your presentation and your interactive tasks. And you made me think about what actions are most effective and that our power exceeds our immediate environment. And due to advocacy, we can do more than we think. And I have read one question in the chat for Sophia. You talked about this manual for climate health workforce, and who is the target group for this manual? And is it practice, research, policy? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I would say mainly the target group are those who are responsible or able to refine or change curricula. So, for example, professional associations we could work with and try to implement some of those modules into the curricula of those specific health professions.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And we have 2 minutes left for any more questions you might have. Just raise your hand, ask them directly to our panel. Okay, everything seems clear. Rita Kren, please go ahead.
You're mute. You're mute, Rita.
Can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm from the University of Applied Science for Health Professions in Upper Austria. And we are just starting to look into this topic. And thank you very much for these contributions. They are very interesting. And there are so many aspects. I just really don't know where to start. But maybe I just want to share a thought of mine because I also have a background in landscape planning. So what I really think is that health is affecting everybody. So it should be an important topic for everybody, really. So who couldn't be interested in climate and health? I'm asking myself, really. And I'm also fond of the idea to look into like governmental structures to see how we can contribute health issues in planning, in plannings, in spatial planning, in landscape planning, because we need to build the health rooms and the health the free rooms for the people. So what I'm really looking into is for approaches to look into this kind of topics to link this really very important two parts like spatial planning and health issues, and to be part as a health professional in this kind of plannings. So I just want to, open up myself here. If there are any ideas, I'm happy to be in contact with anybody who is like, yeah, let's do something with that. So thank you very much.
Rita, as you are in Upper Austria, I'm in Salzburg.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to hit me up on that one.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we can be in touch. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there are so many aspects that are linked together regarding climate change and health. And I'll hand over now to Sarah, who wants to make some announcements.
Yeah, thank you, Maximilian. I'm happy to make some, give you some news. Probably some of you now became inspired by this youngEFPC webinar. I'm also part of the youngEFPC as well as the executive board and also working at the Austrian National Public Health Institute. So we really want to invite you to become a member of the EFPC as well as the youngEFPC. If you're a member of the primary healthcare platform in Austria, then it's very easy for you because you can have free access to all of the activities as well as the webinars, and also become part of the youngEFPC. Yeah, it's really important to us to bring together young professionals from Europe who are interested in primary healthcare. And this year we had the topic of sustainability. Next year we will focus on interprofessional collaboration and other things. So mutual support, exchange, and inspiration are the heart of the things we do at the EFPC and the Young EFPC. And to find out which topics are important to you, we will organize an online meeting on the 23rd of January at 5 p.m. So we would like to cordially invite you to join us and tell us your desires for the Young EFPC. In addition, I would like to ask you to fill out the survey in advance and tell us your desires, your ideas, your goals, what would inspire and motivate you to become part of the Young EFPC. And keep posted, follow us on social media. And at the end, I would like to announce the next EFPC conference. It will take place in Vienna from the 7th to the 9th of September. And there will be also some activities of the Young EFPC. So save the date and join our network. And thank you to all of the great speakers. It was really inspiring to us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for all participants and for our panel. Thank you so much. And Robin, any famous last words?
No, just I did share the link for the YouTube channel for which this recording will be available, as well as our previous webinars. So just find that in the link. And there's also, in the chat, and then there's also a link in the chat for the video that I was trying to share earlier at the start of the presentation. But thank you very much for joining us all today. Thank you very much to the speakers, and thank you to Sarah and Max for a wonderful webinar and for all your hard work.
Thank you all. Okay. Have
Cheers,
a nice
everyone.
rest of the day.
Thank you. Have a nice
Bye.
day.
Bye.